you. How do I address you? Are you Dr. Rob, Dr. Hicks, Rob?
Rob is absolutely
Rob,
fine.
hi,
Yes,
hi, how are you doing? Now, this is quite a serious topic that we're going to be talking about. Can you just tell me a little bit first, why was the research carried out?
Well, I think the research was carried out really, I mean, by Buzz Bingo to highlight the fact that their members were reporting that they're missing being at the bingo, and actually they're missing out on the community spirit that being at the bingo was providing for them. And also, I think people had recognised that during the pandemic, many people were having to be stuck at home, whether that's because they've been furloughed from work or they were working from home, and no longer being able to take part in their usual activities. So that might be sports clubs, going to the cafe to meet with your friends, going down the pub, going down the bingo, obviously, and that loneliness actually is perhaps a lesser recognised problem from a well-being point of view, and certainly in the survey it highlighted, 1 in 2 people said that they were feeling lonelier at the moment than they had done ever in the rest of their lives. And that's a significant worry, because we know that the knock-on effect of loneliness is that there's a greater risk of somebody developing stress and anxiety and depression, and essentially, experiencing much worse mental health than they need be experiencing.
What does this tell us about our coping mechanisms? I mean, obviously, since 2008, really, since the financial crash, there have been a lot of things to cope with. But, is it just that we haven't had to deal with situations like this before, or are we just not made to be like that, to cope with loneliness?
I think perhaps I think perhaps it reflects that for some things we take them for granted and we benefit from those things. So the sense of community. Not, I don't mean people living around you, but actually going somewhere where you're part of a community, a sports community, a club community, whatever it might be. That because the survey highlighted very much that 1 in 5 said that the pandemic has actually made them realise the importance and the value of these communities for themselves and others. And I think the pandemic has actually brought out. It's taught us that we can change. And we can do things differently, and it's okay to do things differently, and there are ways of supporting ourselves and each other. I don't think it's necessary that we weren't skilled. I think it was more to do with the fact that we didn't need to draw on these resources. And you just have to look at the emergence of technology in helping us these days. One could argue that it's been there for a long time, but we just haven't really embraced it in the way that we've been forced to embrace it now. But I do think that some of the surprising stats to come out of the survey from Buzz Bingo, the fact that the millennials say that they're feeling it most. That 74%, that's 3 out of 4 people say that they felt lonely in the past year. Because I think traditionally, maybe if you talk about who might be feeling lonely, the first group that people might jump to is the elderly. And I think what this survey result highlights is that basically we are all at risk. Loneliness can affect all ages, so we very much have to look to everybody, to how we as an individual support each other.
It's very surprising, isn't it? Because the millennials are typically the generation that are used to all the social media, the Facebooking, the Snapchatting, the TikToking, etc. But clearly that doesn't seem to be enough to to cope with loneliness. Why is this?
Well, I looked at some of possibly the reason is that if you're living alone, your working community might be your community. So if you've been furloughed or if you've been put in a position where you have to work from home, you lose that community. And just wondered, the baby boomers, they were reporting that they're feeling it least, and it might be that actually they've got more life experience, they've got more resilience. Maybe they know what to do, and they know what measures to put in place to avoid loneliness, to get through these scenarios. But I think what comes at this is that there are lots of different ways that each and every one of us can help ourselves and others to get through this very, very difficult period in history. and hopefully come out of it the other end, happy and smiling. So, for example, my top tip would always be stay connected with others, in whichever way works for you. So it might be video calls, it might be emails, it might be phone calls, texts, letters, postcards even. I think, example from my own family, one of my mum's communities is that she likes to meet with a group of friends. They go for a walk and they end up in a cafe somewhere to have a cup of tea and a catch up. Of course, they can't do that at the moment, so they've scheduled now Zoom calls where they have this catch up and cup of tea over Zoom. I sing in a choir, and we're still rehearsing. We're still singing online every couple of weeks. So no, we can't be in the same room, but we are still maintaining that sense of community. And Buzz Bingo has launched the Buzz Buddies scheme, which I think is a very valuable idea, where their general managers will regularly call their vulnerable and elderly community members just to make sure they're okay, give them some contact in an effort to maintain this community in the most appropriate way possible at the moment, until we can get back to some sense of normality. But I think the other thing is that some people may be finding that they've got empty time slots during the day, and I think rather than sit there dwelling on how miserable things can be, fill those time slots. It might be doing what I call getting around to tasks. The sort of things, how the
Yes.
sort of things you need to do, but you put off. So it might be repairs at home, or admin, filing, cleaning, that, whatever. So get those things done, or try new things that you've always wanted to do but really haven't had the chance or the opportunity. So it
Well,
might
that's
be,
interesting that you say that, because obviously we've had 2 previous lockdowns where you would have thought we could have learnt what we were supposed to do. And there was some fantastic stories about people learning new languages, taking up new pastimes, etc. So haven't we learned?
well, I think learning is an ongoing thing, isn't it? What I hope isn't the case is that we've learned and forgotten. Because one of the things that I hope will come out of this pandemic is the all the acts of kindness that we see on a daily basis will continue. And it won't be just pandemic based, that you're kind to your neighbours and you try and help people, that we'll just do this forever. But a lot of the things online are free as well. Exercise classes. I'd always wanted to play guitar, and so with my eldest daughter, we did some free online guitar lessons. You don't want to hear me play, but I'd wanted to play since I was a teenager. So it's about finding what is right for you as the individual, isn't it? What
It is,
works
but
what works for you?
you're absolutely right. But I think, the fact that some of us, we haven't been able to hug our mums, and we haven't been able to hug our kids, and or friends even, this is something that we all really cherish, don't we? Hugs from our friends and families, and that's obviously causing great problems. I mean, I'm actually fall into the baby boomer generation, and I have to say, I've been busy keeping. We haven't stopped working since last year, but even so, I just miss that human contact sometimes. A lot of the community things that I was involved with have stopped, and it's very difficult to see where that's going to end at the moment.
I think you're right. I think you reflect how most of the country's feeling at the moment. I would say there is a light at the end of the tunnel. I hope we will get there sooner rather than later. In the meantime, it's important to focus on the positive things and to do the things that actually will keep us going. Keep a routine, for example, helps maintain our self-esteem, our self-purpose. Move around a lot. And you're right. One of my favourite things that's been winging around the internet, it's come back 3 times now, is a little cartoon that says, "When this is all over, I'm going to hug you so tight."
Oh,
Um,
yes, they're lovely, aren't they?
and I think if we keep that in mind, it will happen. We're going to have to be patient. And in the meantime, let's make the best of it. Keep in touch with everybody that we know, support them in what ways we can, be kind to ourselves, and make sure that each day we do things that we enjoy. And there's actually, if people want more information about how to deal with loneliness and the help that's available, the charity Mind on its website has some great information. The NHS website has some great information. And certainly about the bingo community, there's lots of information on the buzzbingo.com website as well. So I think we are in this all together, and together we'll get through it.
Well, I was going to ask you what your top tips were, but I think you've already given me those. So if I can just recap, you said stay connected with people, get around to doing those tasks that maybe you've been leaving for another day, carry on with all the Zoom calls, be kind to ourselves, and keep a good routine. And hopefully, we will all come out of this still feeling good about ourselves.
I think you said it perfectly.
Oh, no, well, you said it first. Thank you very much for speaking to me today, Rob. It's been lovely talking to you.